My wife and her mom walked out with our kids and said, "We're going where we're appreciated." I said, "Who's we?" And her mom smirked. "The real family." That's when I found the hidden letter from my brother. She was mine first. It read. I dropped the letter and said, "Guess loyalty skips generations. You don't really notice the moment your life falls apart. It's never as dramatic as they make it seem in movies. No crash of thunder. No warning bells. Sometimes, it's just an ordinary Saturday morning. I was standing at the kitchen sink, rinsing out the coffee pot like I did every morning. The kids were already fighting in the living room over the TV remote. Hunter's high-pitched whine cut through the air while Noelle shouted about it being her turn. The sound used to make me smile in a tired sort of way. It was normal. Life. My wife, Serena, was sitting at the dining table scrolling on her phone, pretending not to hear them. Her mother, Gloria, was perched on the couch like some queen surveying her kingdom, her mouth pressed into that thin, judgmental line she always wore around me. It was the kind of Saturday we had 100 times before. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and turned around just in time to hear Gloria's voice, low and bitter. I couldn't make out the words, but it made Serena stiffen. She set her phone down, stood up slowly, and walked toward the hallway without a word. Gloria followed. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe another fight between them. Maybe Gloria griping about the Wi-Fi or the thermostat or whatever else wasn't perfect in her world. I picked up a few dirty plates and carried them to the sink. Then I heard bags being zipped. I wiped my hands again, slower this time, trying to shake the sudden unease creeping up my spine. It was the wrong sound. People zipped bags when they were leaving. My feet moved before I could even think. I came around the corner just as Serena was kneeling in front of the kids, helping Hunter into his sneakers. There were 2 duffel bags by the door. I stopped dead in the hallway. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice sounding too loud. Serena didn't answer right away. Gloria straightened up and turned toward me, her expression already set like stone. "We're leaving," Gloria said, crisp and final. Serena stood and brushed imaginary dust off her jeans. "It's not working anymore, Travis." I stared at her, at them, at the bags, not really understanding. "You're taking the kids?" "We're going where we're appreciated," Gloria said before Serena could answer. My mouth opened and closed. I felt stupid, like I was missing some obvious piece of information. I laughed, but it came out all wrong. "Who's we?" Gloria's smile was slow, like a cat that just caught a bird. "The real family." She opened the door wide, ushering Serena and the kids out like it was already decided. Like I wasn't even part of the equation. Noelle hesitated at the threshold, looking up at me with wide, confused eyes. I reached for her, but Serena nudged her forward gently. The door closed behind them with a solid click. I stood there, frozen, listening to the sound of the engine starting, gravel crunching under tires, and then silence. I don't remember how long I stood there. The house felt so empty so fast, it was like they took the air with them. I picked up the kids' abandoned cereal bowls from the coffee table. I turned off the blaring TV. I loaded the dishwasher. I moved like a robot, trying to reset the world to something that made sense. It wasn't until I went into the bedroom that I noticed the mess. Drawers yanked open, clothes missing. Her side of the closet bare. Something caught my eye near the dresser. A piece of folded paper half tucked under the leg. I picked it up, turning it over. No envelope. No name on the outside. It was crumpled like someone tried to hide it in a hurry. I unfolded it, heart already pounding. It was a letter. Only 5 words, scrawled in handwriting I recognized better than my own. She was mine first. Aiden's handwriting. My brother's. The paper slipped through my fingers and floated to the floor. Aiden and I hadn't been close in years, but I always thought there was a basic understanding between us. Blood. Family. When we were kids, Aiden was the golden one. The one mom and dad were proud of. Honor roll, varsity sports, college scholarships. I was the afterthought, the one who stayed back home, fixed air conditioners, and didn't make much of himself. When Serena and I met, it was at a barbecue my buddy threw. She was sitting alone at a picnic table, bored out of her mind. I offered her a beer and she laughed at something dumb I said. We clicked. Or at least, I thought we did. I didn't know until much later that Aiden had been at that same party. That he and Serena had a thing going on behind the scenes. Apparently, a thing that wasn't as over as I'd been led to believe. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, the room spinning around me. I picked up my phone with hands that didn't feel like mine and called Aiden. He answered on the 3rd ring, casual as hell. "Trav, what's up?" I didn't bother with small talk. I snapped a photo of the letter and sent it. There was a beat of silence. "You weren't supposed to find that," he said quietly. "You slept with her," I said. It wasn't even a question. "It was before you two were serious," he said, voice defensive. "She didn't want me. She chose you." I barked out a laugh that sounded like a sob. "Then why write the damn letter?" "I don't know," he said, sounding miserable. "Stupid mistake. I never gave it to her." The words meant nothing. They just hung there, heavy and useless. I hung up without another word. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. Every room felt colder. Smaller. I tried calling Serena. Straight to voicemail. I tried texting the kids' tablets. Nothing. Days blurred together. I went to work. Fixed broken heaters. Pretended like I was still a person. Cole, my buddy at work, noticed something was wrong. He didn't press. Good guy, Cole. I owed him more than I could say. At night, I sat alone in the living room, staring at old family photos. There was one from last Christmas. Serena, me, the kids, Gloria perched awkwardly at the edge. We were all smiling, but now I could see how forced it was. How strained. Had it been fake the whole time? It took me a week to find them. Serena had enrolled the kids in a school in Asheville, using Gloria's old address. The drive up was quiet except for the rattling of my old truck's engine and the occasional curse I muttered under my breath. Their house was small, paint peeling off the siding, wind chimes screeching in the cold air. It didn't look like the kind of place you left everything behind for. I knocked harder than I needed to. Gloria answered. She smiled like she'd been waiting for this. You're not welcome here, she said, trying to close the door. I shoved my foot against it. I want to see my kids. They don't need you confusing them, she said sweetly. Serena appeared behind her, looking tired. Older somehow. She stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind her. Can we talk? I said, voice cracking. She nodded once. We stood there in the driveway. The wind cut through my jacket, but I didn't move. We're filing for divorce, she said, not meeting my eyes. Because of Aiden? I asked. She flinched, just a tiny movement, but it was enough. It was a long time ago, she whispered. Then why run? I said. I wasn't happy. I laughed, a hollow, empty sound. Neither was I. That's marriage, Serena. It's not supposed to be perfect. I couldn't do it anymore, she said, and I could hear the tears she was holding back. I waited, hoping she'd say more, hoping she'd change her mind. She didn't. Goodbye, Travis, she whispered. And then she was gone. The door closed. Again. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in the truck across the street for what must have been hours, engine ticking as it cooled. I watched their front door, hoping maybe the kids would peek out a window. Maybe Serena would come back outside and wave me in. Maybe the world would start making sense again. But the curtains stayed closed. The porch light blinked on as the sky darkened, and still nobody came. Eventually, I pulled away and started the long drive back to Charlotte. The roads were mostly empty, just the occasional headlights flashing by. Every mile felt heavier, like something in me was getting dragged behind the truck, scraping along the asphalt. When I finally made it home, the house felt wrong. Bigger somehow. Too much space. The kids' rooms were still the way they left them. Noelle's pink comforter bunched up in the corner. Hunter's half-finished Lego spaceship on the floor. I sat on the couch, still wearing my jacket, staring at nothing. I must have fallen asleep at some point because when I woke up, it was morning and my back was screaming from the awkward position. I didn't move. Didn't even reach for my phone. What was the point? Days turned into weeks. Work became the only thing that kept me moving. I started taking extra shifts, even offered to do weekend installs. Anything to stay busy. Anything to avoid the house. People stopped asking if I was okay. I guess when you look bad long enough, they figure that's just how you are now. Cole invited me out a couple times after work, but I always said no. What was I going to do? Sit in a bar and pretend I wasn't a shell of a man? One night, about 3 weeks after they left, I found myself sitting in the garage. The place was a mess, tools scattered everywhere, old Christmas decorations shoved into the corners. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for until my hand brushed against an old photo album tucked behind a dusty shelf. It was from when Serena and I first got married. There we were, young, smiling, drunk on hope. Aiden was even in a few of them, laughing, arms slung around my shoulders. I stared at one photo in particular. Serena leaning against me, laughing at something I must have said. Aiden just behind us, looking at her in a way I was too blind to notice back then. I tore the picture in half without thinking. Then I tore the next one. And the next. By the time I was done, the garage floor was littered with shredded memories. I sank down onto the concrete, heart hammering, breathing hard like I'd just run a marathon. The rage came slowly, like a tide rising without you noticing. At first, it was just a low simmer. Little things set it off: the sound of a woman's laugh at the grocery store, a kid calling daddy, across a parking lot. I gripped the cart so hard my knuckles turned white. Then it got worse. I started thinking about every time Gloria made some snide comment about me not being good enough. Every time Serena looked through me like I was furniture. Every time I told myself it was just a rough patch. I thought about Aiden, smiling at me across the barbecue pit, pretending he was happy for me, knowing all along what he and Serena had done. The lies built up, one on top of the other, until it felt like they were crushing my chest. One night, lying awake in the dark, I realized I couldn't live like this. I couldn't be the guy who let them rip my life apart and just sat in the ruins. I didn't want revenge. Not the screaming, movie-type revenge. That wasn't me. But I wanted something. Something real. Something that would make them look in the mirror and see themselves for who they really were. I wanted them to hurt, the way they hurt me. But I wanted it clean. No screaming. No police. No drama. Just truth. I started small. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, one that specialized in family law and custody battles. The good kind. The kind that could smell blood in the water. I gathered everything. Every text. Every email. Every half-forgotten voicemail. I printed bank statements, credit card charges, school notices. I found out Serena had been moving money out of our joint account for months before she left. I found out Gloria had a suspended license she never bothered to mention. I found out that Aiden's business trips were mostly bar tabs and hotel receipts 2 towns over. I had the kind of evidence that didn't scream. It whispered. Whispered to the right people: the judge, the school administrators, the neighbors. I wasn't proud of how easy it was. How satisfying. The first time Serena called me, I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was tight, panicked. "Travis, can you call me back? It's important." I didn't. The second time she called, she sounded angrier. Like I was the one who owed her something. By the third call, her voice cracked. "Please, Travis. We need to talk." I sat there, staring at the screen until the call ended. It was the first time in weeks I felt in control. I still loved her. That was the sickest part. Even after everything, some broken part of me still wanted to fix it. But love doesn't mean you let people burn you alive. Love doesn't mean you set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. The court date was set. I showed up in a clean suit, hair trimmed, documents in a neat folder. Serena showed up looking tired, worn out. Gloria was there too, whispering furiously to her in the hallway before we were called in. Aiden wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. He was never there when it mattered. The hearing was short, cruel. My lawyer presented everything quietly, methodically. Serena tried to argue, tried to explain. The judge wasn't impressed. Joint custody, supervised visits for Gloria, financial penalties for Serena's hidden accounts. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. When the gavel came down, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. Outside the courthouse, Serena caught up with me. She looked like she wanted to say something. Apologize, maybe. Beg, maybe. I didn't wait to find out. I walked past her, out into the cold sunshine, and didn't look back. Life didn't magically get better after court. The thing they don't tell you is that even when you win, it doesn't feel like winning. You don't walk out feeling like a hero. You walk out feeling bruised. Hollow. The first weekend I had the kids, the house still smelled like loneliness. Noelle clung to her backpack like a shield. Hunter barely spoke above a whisper. They moved through the house like guests, like they didn't know where anything was anymore. I tried too hard. Cooked their favorite dinner, spaghetti and meatballs, even made the sauce from scratch like Serena used to. They picked at their plates. After dinner, we sat on the couch watching some mindless cartoon. I tried to laugh at the jokes, tried to nudge them back into something that looked like normal. They didn't laugh. At bedtime, Noelle asked if they were staying forever. I told her the truth. "You'll go back and forth for a while." She nodded like she understood, but her little mouth pressed into a tight line the way Serena's did when she was trying not to cry. Hunter just crawled into bed without a word. I sat in the hallway for a long time after they fell asleep, staring at the floor, feeling like a failure. Monday morning, I dropped them off at school. Noelle barely waved goodbye. Hunter clung to my hand a second longer than he needed to. I watched them walk inside, tiny backpacks bobbing, and wondered if they'd hate me for this someday. If they'd blame me for the way everything cracked apart. When I got back to the truck, Aiden was standing there leaning against it like he belonged. I froze for a second. Part of me wanted to hit him. Hard. He straightened up, hands stuffed in his pockets. He looked different. Gaunt. Like he hadn't been sleeping much either. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't move. He sighed. "I didn't come here to fight." Still, I didn't move. He rubbed the back of his neck, the way he used to when we were kids, and he got caught doing something stupid. "I screwed up," he said. The understatement of the year. I never meant for any of this to happen. It was a mistake. A long time ago. I never stopped feeling guilty about it. I stared at him, at the way he couldn't quite meet my eyes. "I should have told you," he said quietly. "You deserve to know." I finally spoke, voice low. "You should have stayed the hell away from her." He nodded like he agreed. Silence stretched between us, heavy and sharp. "She's not happy," he said finally, almost like it was supposed to make me feel better. I laughed under my breath. It wasn't funny, but it was either that or scream. "I'm not here to fix anything," Aiden said. "I know I can't. I needed to say it." I stepped forward, until we were just a few feet apart. "You don't get to need anything from me," I said. He flinched, like the words hit harder than a punch would have. Without another word, I got into the truck and drove off, leaving him standing there. Weeks dragged on. The kids adjusted slowly. They still flinched sometimes when someone raised their voice. They still asked too many questions that I didn't have answers for. Serena called sometimes. She was careful now, cautious, like she wasn't sure where the line was anymore. Mostly it was about the kids. Sometimes she slipped and asked about me. I kept it short, polite, distant. Gloria didn't come around. That was one blessing. One night after the kids went to bed, I sat out back on the porch, nursing a cold beer and staring at the stars. It was getting warmer. Spring coming slow and stubborn. The grass needed cutting. The gutters were clogged. The deck was starting to splinter. Everything was falling apart a little, but for the first time, I didn't feel like I was drowning in it. It was just life. Messy, broken, still moving. The loneliness was still there, sharp around the edges. But it wasn't all-consuming anymore. I thought about Aiden, about Serena, about how easy it would be to stay bitter forever. But bitterness was heavy, and I was tired of carrying heavy things. I sat there a long time, listening to the night sounds. Crickets, the distant bark of a neighbor's dog, the creak of the porch boards under my feet. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the next bad thing to happen. I was just breathing. The next few months passed slower than I would have liked, but looking back now, I needed them. The house started feeling less like a museum and more like a home again. I fixed up the deck, cut the grass, unclogged the gutters. Little things, but they mattered. I stopped checking Serena's social media, stopped waiting for calls that didn't come, stopped thinking about Aiden every time something reminded me of the past. The kids settled into the rhythm of it too. They laughed more, fought over stupid things again, acted like kids. But deep down, I knew there was still unfinished business. Because people like Serena and Gloria, they don't stop trying to twist the story. They don't leave well enough alone. It started small. Serena showed up unannounced one Sunday, standing awkwardly on the porch while the kids ran inside with their backpacks. She said she just wanted to talk. I didn't invite her in. We stood there, in the fading afternoon light, her arms crossed tight over her chest. I made mistakes, she said finally. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I thought maybe we could work on things. For the kids. There it was. Not for me. Not even really for them. But because her life with Gloria and that miserable little house in Asheville wasn't the fantasy she thought it would be. Because maybe she realized Aiden wasn't going to swoop in and fix everything either. I looked at her for a long moment. She wasn't the woman I married anymore. And maybe I wasn't the man she thought she could control. I'm good, I said simply. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked like she wanted to argue, but couldn't find the words. I didn't give her the chance. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. That was the start of it. The realization that she needed me more than I needed her. I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I just lived. I showed up for every school event, every parent-teacher conference, every soccer game. I brought cupcakes to Hunter's birthday party at school, helped Noelle build her science project volcano. I was there. Serena? She was late. She forgot things. She sent Gloria in her place sometimes, which the kids hated. The teachers noticed. The other parents noticed. Hell, even the kids noticed. It didn't take long before Serena's shiny image started to dull. I started hearing things around town. People whispered about Gloria's accident with the car that wasn't properly registered, about the messy scene she caused at the school fundraiser, about Serena's struggles with work, her money problems, her missed rent payments. Turns out living with Gloria wasn't the dream after all. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, paid my bills, took care of my house, took care of my kids. I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to post anything online. I didn't have to tell anyone my side. The truth did the work for me. The final nail in the coffin came at the custody review hearing 6 months later. My lawyer handed the judge a neat stack of updated documents, school reports praising my involvement, letters from teachers, character references from neighbors. Serena showed up looking harried, disorganized, defensive. Gloria wasn't even there this time. The judge didn't need long. Full custody awarded to me. Serena would get supervised visitation. Gloria would have no contact order with the kids. I sat there while Serena broke down in front of everyone, sobbing into her hands. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just thanked the judge, gathered my paperwork, and walked out. Outside, Aiden was waiting. He looked different, older, defeated. He stepped toward me, hands out in a half-hearted gesture. I'm sorry, he said. It was the same apology he'd given me months ago, and it still didn't mean a damn thing. I looked him in the eye. I forgave you, I said quietly. But that doesn't mean I want you in my life. I saw the moment it hit him, the way he sagged, the way he realized there was no fixing what he broke. I didn't say anything else. I turned, walked to my truck, and drove home. That night, I sat out on the porch again, beer in hand, the kids inside laughing over some ridiculous movie. The stars were out. The air was warm. The house smelled like home again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt it. Peace. Not the kind you beg for. Not the kind someone else gives you. The kind you earn. They say revenge is best served cold. But I don't think that's true. Real revenge is living better. Moving on. Being happy in a way they can't touch. Real revenge is letting them drown in the mess they made, while you build something better. Something real.